Study Healing, Episode 10, Understanding Yoga with Krish Varma and Lily Jewell. Krish and Lily are the owners of Ara Yoga Ashram in Mysore, India. So we're doing just a little discussion, question and answer with my friend Krish Varma and also with his wife Lily Jewell today. And we have a couple of students joining us from Zion Massage College. I am Rebecca Fairway. So we're having this discussion today because Krish and Lily, hopefully you'll be able to chime in a little bit too, but they're going to talk to us about yogic philosophy and about some of the things, cultural things in India that people that go there can expect. And then we're just going to kind of see where the discussion goes. You know, if you guys have any questions, those of you that are joining us. And so I want to give a little introduction though. I met Krish in January of 2011. I came to your ashram. You were so kind to accept me into your ashram, first of all, because I brought my daughter to India hoping that she would have some healing. She was going through some difficult things in her life and was really, at the time, kind of acting out. And I hoped that she could be in an environment where the basis of it was not that she specifically had problems, but that all people do. That all people have drama, problems, you know, and that there are these universal things that we all need to do, these practices that we can all follow so that we can live more peaceful lives and so that we can be okay no matter what, you know. And while I was there, it really did help her, you know. It wasn't always easy because there were a lot of times where she really was struggling and times where she wasn't doing the practice, but overall it really helped her. It transformed her in so many ways. But I didn't expect this because I was pretty hyper-focused as a mom, you know, at the time on like my child. But it really affected me in profound ways too. I had a moment when we had been doing a lot of breath work. I told you about this. A lot of breath work and a lot of yoga. And I just had this moment where I wondered if I was going to be like going bankrupt when I got back. If I wondered if I was just, you know, I was recently divorced, and I wondered if I had like any type of semblance of a life, like a personal life, you know, left. And I remember, I remember feeling really bad about it. And it was strange because there was this moment where it was a pretty intense moment with my daughter. And in the middle of it, all that breath work, all that meditation, all the yoga, it kicked in. And I had this crazy, it was almost like something like flipped inside me, but it flipped towards peace. It flipped towards like feeling just this amazing feeling that no matter what, things were okay. And this feeling of like connection with everything. And this feeling that I could handle anything that came my way, you know? And it's something that stayed with me the entire time. And like this last 10, 11 years. So I really want to thank you for that. And that was really kind of my, my pivotal experience with yoga and with initial meditation. After that, I went and I did a lot of meditation, different meditation retreats and things like that. And had some similar experiences, but that was really the first time that I even knew that was a possibility, you know? So anyway, so Krish, I know that you guys are going to have a lot of questions too, but do you mind just giving us a little introduction and telling us a little bit about yourself, your ashram, and then also Lily, just if you could talk just a little bit about your experience, how you ended up going to India, and your experience just a little bit as a Westerner being in India and a couple things that have stood out to you. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and give this to you and have you guys speak. Okay.
Before moving on, I just, when I hear your story, it just struck me up. When you try to help others, the help will come back to you. In your case, it just struck me up that you tried to help Holly, your daughter, and whether it helped her or not, but that intention got back to you, that it made you into a path of yoga and meditation more deeper. Although your initial intention was actually to take your daughter to help her. So hello. I just want to give you a brief introduction about yoga as understood in India, or actually in particular when I say India, which is a very complex large country with a different opinions, so I had to be very specific. A traditional hatha yoga. Later I'll get to you what it means, but the general idea, when we use the word yoga normally, what comes to your mind? Peace, union, stretching. Yeah. But mostly in the modern times, when you think of yoga, you think of as somebody doing a nice posture and staying there at different flows and postures. Or why do you practice those postures? What feels good? Okay, can you try to put that in a more technical term? Why do we want to do yoga or any kind of exercise? For health. Yeah. And why do you?
To bring movement into stuck places, find release,
Yeah.
strength.
So yoga practice gives you the strength or health. Now, why do we need them? What happens if you have a healthy body? If you have a strong body?
Happiness.
Uh, Healthy body gives happiness is a bit like when you drive a fancy car. A Ferrari looks nice, a Porsche looks nice. People think that it's going to make them happy. But I think I don't need to go into deeper of that. And external material things might make you happy for a day or two, but it is followed with when something's crash happens on the car, it gives you the more problems. Or your car gets crashed, you feel, oh, why did I have that? Or maintenance. So exactly like a material things, just having a healthy body and a strong body itself does not guarantee. I would not use the word happiness. Again, happiness is just not the end goal of all life. If it is, everybody should dance and drink and make merry all the time. But that's not the end goal. In Indian philosophies, the word that we use is fulfillment. What it means is a state of mind where you have nothing to desire for and you have nothing to be afraid of. In a deeper philosophy, all actions come from two sources, desire and fear. As long as these two exist, we keep on doing the things, acting, and there's never end. We think that, okay, I desire this, let me do this. But by the time you are done, you have one more desire. And when you are done with this, there's one more thing to do, one more thing to do. Same thing with fear. Wherever there's desire, there are also fears. We try to overcome one fear and we will succeed. Then we have another thing scares us. We try to face it, spend time, and we deal with it. Then there's one more thing to be scared. It could be not only, yeah, everybody has a different desires and fears, but they're never ending. As long as there are desires and fears, a person cannot truly know or just be. Or we say being and doing. Being means you're just be and you're in your own joy. You don't need to do anything to become joyful. You don't need to go and dance or party or eat a lot of nice food or wear pretty clothes or make a lot of money and get the other people praising you. lot of people, normally we do that many times to become, we do the things to be either happy or fulfill whatever we want. But the state shanti, or the peace in yoga, means a state where you do nothing and you are not scared of anything. You don't care what the world thinks of you. But it's not again a passive hippie state. Sometimes in the 60s and 70s, hippies, there was a time people smoked a lot of dope and they say, oh, I don't care about the world. No, it's not a passive state, but it's actually more dynamic, more vibrant than a person who is actually doing. Our Bhagavad Gita, which is an important book in yoga, says a wise man sees action in inaction. Inaction in action. That means actions are not done by the body. Actions are always done by the mind. The intentions. Many times we have no control there. We try to allow the body to do by impulses, by circumstances, by the people around us, by the circumstances around us compel us to do the things. Many times we do have a knowledge, wisdom, but we don't make use of that all the time. We just act impulsively. So what is the end state of a yogi? Is a being in a perfect control of this self. When you act, don't act out of desires and fears. Act based on your dharma. Dharma means a nature. To put that in simple, everything that exists in this universe has a purpose. Like the sun gives us a light, warmth. Yeah. The birds have their own purpose. Like every single thing, there's nothing that has no purpose. It's not only about the things we see around. According to yogic philosophy, the microcosm and macrocosm are built on the same design. Like every human being has a unique purpose. Every human being is different and unique. What is good for me, right for me, is not good for her. What is right for her is not good for you. All of us have a certain unique personality. Again, if I had to go into details of personality, in yoga we see there are 5 different levels in the personality. Physical body is only the first outer, external. Behind that there's something what you call as prana or energy. And if you go one layer deeper, there's a mind. Go deeper, there's intelligence. Go deeper, there is a 5th layer where we have karmas. A karma is which is a kind of a results of all the past actions we have done, not only in this life but several lives before. Every action we do leaves a little what is English for? Imprint. Leaves an imprint. All these imprints together creates what we call in English as subconscious mind. So when we say personality, there are 5 different things. All of them together makes what we call as separates us. All of us have a unique personalities. Now, the end goal of yoga is not just being healthy. Like being healthy, I'm not saying that you should not be healthy. I'm not saying that you should be unhealthy. So what I'm trying to say is being healthy is really a small part of yoga. I would say when it's a byproduct or a preparation for understanding and practice of yoga. So what I have been trying to do here is to expand our idea of yoga beyond just having a fit body and healthy body. But of course it's necessary. When you have the healthy body, it's much easier to practice more yogic, deeper practices like meditation and everything. So when we practice yoga in India, first philosophy comes, then the practice comes. The idea why you want to do, because entire purpose of yoga is to make people realize, to become aware of what you want to do with life. All of us have a life. Unfortunately, our schools, our parents have no idea what to do with their own lives, and they cannot teach us. Nobody tells us. Everybody, we have a template in the society. Get graduate from school, get a degree, get a job, and get married, have kids, make money, then retire, and then die. There's a social template. And yoga goes completely against following the template. If you ever read the life stories of yogis, are the people who don't want to follow the template even within the yoga. There are templates even in spiritual world. They're spiritual templates. A lot of people fall into the trap. Now, practice of yoga. I assume all of you are either practicing, you're not completely new, but a time will come. How long should I practice? What should I practice? For beginners in yoga, it's interesting to learn, but after a year or two, you learn everything in the physical practice. What next? Am I going to India, do more meditation, do a lot of yoga? And some people actually in the West gets too obsessive with the idea of being a great yogi. They try to see videos on the YouTube, do all the circus poses, and they think they're becoming a big yogi. Unfortunately, you do not need to do all the circus to become a great yogi. Instead of that, it's more about the quality of the practice. It's not about the degree of practice or the intensity of the practice does not define yoga. Actually, if you ever get to meet whom we consider as yogis in India, they don't practice several hours of yoga. I'm talking about hatha yoga, physical practice. And they don't do all the circus. They do just what is needed for their body to remain healthy. It could be half an hour of practice. There's no need that one has to practice 3 hours yoga or 4 hours yoga, you become a better yogi. Not really. It's more about increasing the awareness during the practice is what makes all the difference. So where do we want to go with this yoga practice other than being healthy, other than being fitter in the strength? As I said, that's not the final goal. But where do you want to go with it? There are several layers in the practice of yoga. And the next layer is, the first layer is called mastery on the physical body. What it means again does not mean mastery means being on the head for 10 hours a day. That's not considered mastery. Mastery in yoga is defined in the Upanishads as, actually I'll give more simpler explanation. One great yogi said, somebody who has a sound digestion, sound sleep, is a yogi. Because a lot of us struggle with the digestion, lack of sleep, getting tired. Now, we still push the body, keep pushing that body in that condition. In yoga, healthy body means when you wake up in the morning, you feel super awake, you're ready to get out. And when you do an action, it does not tire you and exhaust you. And you do it with happily, not as a burden. Your life goes through a kind of joyful moment rather than, oh, I had to finish this, then I'll go and do something else. So being a healthy has nothing to do with the muscles, first of all, how big muscles are, not even with flexibility, how flexible you are. That is another misconception in the West. Yoga means being super flexible. Not necessarily, but it's more about the state of your body throughout the day. I don't have time to go into deeper. Otherwise, in our trainings, we go into much deeper understanding the physiological and anatomical differences that comes up when you progress in the path of yoga. But let us assume you're physiologically feels good. You have no physical illness, you sleep good, your digestion is good. Then the next layer to explore is what controls this body. Because many times we think that good food, good exercise controls our body. It's not. Actually, it has a huge influence. Healthy food and healthy exercise has a huge influence. But if you're somebody practicing yoga every day, you will realize that there are things much subtler, forces inside our body which actually guides our body and controls our body. No amount of medicine or health or exercise or retiring in Hawaii would really give you a complete mastery on the body. There are forces beyond the physical realm. That is called prana. Prana is a life force, or in Chinese what you call a chi. Unless you learn how it works, regulation of that is a key in regulating the physical body. So that is a second layer. So in yoga, mostly in advanced classes, we spend a lot of time doing breathing exercises. Once a person masters that, breathing and prana, a third layer, the mind, which is much more complex. Always busy, always wandering. Now, to understand the mind, you need to quieten it, and you have to separate from it and observe the mind. When you observe the mind, again, why we need to study the mind is the chi is actually controlled by our mind. Understanding of the mind, its functions, and mastering the mind is a third level. Once you try to master, you'll find that there's something else that actually is controlling our mind. That is, we call it in Sanskrit buddhi, the intelligence. Intelligence is different than intellect. There are some people highly intellectual, but does not mean they have intelligence. There are some people who are not intellectual, they did not study a lot of stuff, but they're very intelligent. In English, being smart, I'm not sure it's the right translation. Being intelligent means you know what to do with your life. Or to go on the other side, lack of intelligence causes doubts, confusion. We keep on doubting, what am I doing? Why am I doing? I don't know what to do. Yeah, we feel a lack of understanding of what's going on with us, with other people, or the life around us. That is lack of buddhi. So the fourth layer of yoga practice is about developing the buddhi, the seat of intelligence. When you develop enough, you come across another wall. There's something else that is actually guiding this intelligence. That is called Ananda Maya Kosha in Sanskrit. In English, you can literally it's translated as a blissful sheath. Means that's the place where all our samskaras or the karmas, the settler memories from the past are sitting. Or it's a bit similar like archetypes in the modern psychology. You call it archetypes? Yeah. Yeah, like those are the patterns beyond the within the subconscious mind, the subtle imprints that makes our personality. Now, that is fifth layer. One has to understand how it works, learn how to regulate it, and learn how to use it in the day-to-day life. Now, these 5 layers I've been telling you all this time is your personality. Now, I have to contradict. These 5 things is not you. These 5 things is the illusion that makes you. Right now I say I'm Krish. I'm a male. I'm an Indian. I'm a Hindu. I'm a yoga teacher. Yeah, I'm a good guy or a bad guy. Or I'm a smart. I am not. I'm a rich guy. I'm a poor guy. All this what we think about me. In yogic psychology we call it a small self. Or small is not a great term, a temporary self. Yeah, because this self keeps changing all the time. Today I think that I look beautiful, but when my hairs are ugly in the morning, when I wake up and look myself in the mirror, I say, oh, I feel ugly. Again, when I put on some nice clothes and everything, I think, oh, I'm beautiful. Or when I eat some nice food, I think I'm happy. When I don't have the food I want, I think I'm unhappy. So the idea, concept of small self is the self which keeps changing all the time. And there is nothing, it's not real, it's not permanent. And most of the time, this small self is the result of external forces. What I conceive myself right now depends upon how I perceive of all of you. Because I see that you are a yoga people, I feel like a yogi. Suppose if I go, say, 3 hours down into Las Vegas, into casinos, I don't feel I'm a yogi there because the people around me have no idea what yoga is. And if I go and tell, hey, I'm a yogi, people say, hey, get out from here, we are playing. Do you see here, the example is what I see about myself depends upon the circumstances all the time. Now, the irony, I would not say it's an irony, but the truth is many times our self is constantly changing based on external factors. Now, the end goal of yoga is to get rid of this false self, and B, even there's no concept of self. In the beginning we use the concept of this self because we do have. Right now if I tell you, hey, you are not Anne Marie, you are not Kayla, then why should I do this? Why should I do yoga? You won't practice. If I tell you, you are not a girl, you are not an American, you are neither good nor bad, it can be quite a shocking truth for a lot of people, that lot of us not ready to accept that. So in yoga, we tell people, starting with their body, with their mind, all of that. But when you go to the fifth layer, after one after another, you will see that. You don't need any external person to tell you. You can see it at that moment. The idea of this self is an illusion. Even our body is continuously changing. The body I had yesterday and today is not same. The body I have today and tomorrow is not same. Doesn't matter how much yoga I do, how healthy I eat, how much exercise I do, I'm not going to have this body forever. The body is changing. Things are changing. People are changing. Life is a change. Anything that does not change is dead. Change is the nature of life. Everything is changing. But there is something that does not change. Actually, to experience the change, you need something that does not change. As a comparison, like if you know theory of relativity, Einstein's famous example is when you are in a train moving in a moving train, you know the train is moving only when you compare with something outside that does not move. We call that as stationary. You need something that does not move to experience the change. Now all of us are experiencing changes all the time. But if you can experience one thing that does not change, then you have arrived to the space where yoga begins. That's not actually end of yoga, that's where the yoga begins. And that space, we call it a consciousness. A consciousness has no time, no space, and there's no cause. A space beyond the time, space, and cause, but you're completely aware, your consciousness. It's not the state you feel in mind. You are asleep. When you are asleep, there's no consciousness. You are peaceful there, but you have no consciousness. But the state of yoga we are talking about is you are not just aware. Just imagine a trillion times you're aware of what you are right now. Your awareness levels are exploding to, it's expanding without an end. Once you get into that space of yoga, what you see is consciousness expanding, and it keeps on expanding till you go beyond the idea of space itself. When you go beyond the idea of space, there's no expansion and no contraction. The idea of expansion or contraction comes when you have the idea of space, here and there. But in the state of samadhi or higher meditations of yoga, you reach a place where there is no I, there is no you. There is no here nor there. There is neither good nor bad. There is neither white nor black, but you are completely alive. And in that moment, why do I need to get there? Why do I need to put all that effort to practice all this to get to there? What do I gain by being in that state? Yogis say that you become free, free from all desires and fears. Freedom, our Sanskrit word is mukti or moksha. When a person is free from all desires and fears, you have a state of peace. In Bible, what Jesus says as peace that passeth all understanding. It's not the peace we get from the sleep. It's not the peace we get by smoking marijuana, or it's not the peace we get from any external things. It's a deepest peace. At that level, you are unshakable. The world around you cannot frighten you, cannot make you do the things the way they do right now. You are in a complete state of freedom. Yeah. In that state of freedom, there is every single minute is a blissful and joyful. And it has, when I say again many times blissful and joyful, not necessarily everybody smiling, being happy, or showing off lot of this. No, it's a kind of inner joy, inner peace. Doesn't matter what happens around you, whether weather is hot or cold, whether you lose your job or people say you're beautiful, you smile. People say you're ugly, you smile. You don't react to that. You stop reacting to the life. Instead, we learn how to act from the nature of our inner strength, inner joy. Yeah. So to sum it up, the asana practices, what we do, are eventually where we want to go is a place of freedom, inner freedom, where you do not feel the need to react to the things around you, but you act out of your own consciousness, out of your own wisdom, out of deeper understanding of what you want to do. Until then, to give a very stark example, Yogi says we are just machines, like robots. We are programmed by our societies, by our religions, our governments, the external situations. They program us and we behave, act like a machines. Being a yogi means stop being a machine and be a complete, being a conscious all the time, not just 1 hour or 2 hours a day. And you can see that when you practice yoga, you can experience that for a shorter times. When you have a nice meditation, you do feel that to a shorter span. But with a deeper advanced practices, a person's goal is to be in that state 24/7 at all times. Otherwise, just being you instead of being somebody the world wants you. I think that's a long introduction to yoga. Normally we teach that. I teach what I told you just now across a 500 hours, 2 months time in our ashram. Yeah.
Krish, I really appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was meaningful. And actually, I don't think it's lost on you guys. I think you guys actually wanted that, real stuff. So I wanted to hear from Lily a little bit because I think it would be interesting for everyone to hear how you started your yoga practice and then how you ended up going to India and just a little bit about your journey because now you guys have been together for 7 years, right? Around 7 years. And that's a big transition going from Wisconsin to now being part of running an ashram and living with your husband, former Swami, in India, you know? So if you don't mind, I'd love to hear about that.
So I'm from Wisconsin, born and raised on a farm. So going to India was never really like a huge dream of mine. I never thought that I'd end up in India. But I did really dream about traveling. And but as, you know, you get older, you go to school and you learn that you have to go to college and have to get a career. So I followed that path and studied biology and science because I am fascinated with life and the fundamentals of life and what makes life. And I'm also very interested in philosophy in the same way. So I graduated with a biology degree and started working for doctors in hospitals in the emergency room, actually. And I worked with them for about 2 years. And the purpose of that was because I wanted to become a doctor. I wanted to help people in their health. But in that job, I realized that the healthcare system here in the U.S. and a lot of all over the world is not productive in helping people really with their health issues and with living a healthy and positive lifestyle. So I quit my job and I decided to finally do something for me. And that was to become a yoga teacher, or at least deepen my practice. And so I decided to go to India for a month and do a yoga teacher training. And I didn't really know much about India. And I searched online for a while. And there's thousands of schools to look at. So sifting through them all was a bit difficult. But I came to know one website and one school called Are You Yoga Eco Ashram. And I had a good feeling about it. Lots of good reviews. So it seemed safe and good to go to. And that happened to be the place that Krish had recently set up. He had been teaching yoga teacher trainings for many years before that, but the teachers and him had settled down in this ashram as a permanent place. And so I went there and did the yoga teacher training and absolutely loved the course and really felt like I wanted to deepen my practice even more, that kind of scratched the surface of what I wanted to get at in life, and asked if I could stay and volunteer. And at the time it wasn't right, so I came home and ended up going back to India soon thereafter and volunteering at the place, at Krish's place. So I volunteered there for about 6 months, and in that we got to know each other and became friends and then fell in love. So I decided to stay there. And I guess through that experience, I learned that it's cheesy to say, but to follow your heart really does lead you to the right path.
Not cheesy.
Yeah. And, following your heart, everything else will kind of fall in place. And also that my passion for helping people, much of like what you guys do, in a meaningful way does not mean prescribing medicine. In fact, it more powerfully means to help people discover how they can live a normal life in modern society, go through all of the ups and downs of life, and come out still happy, healthy, and free. So I'm very grateful for what we do, and for the place that we have created, which is a safe place in nature, where people from all over the world will gather. And I like to say that the best people come, to that kind of place, and with like-minded interests in yoga, in meditation, pranayamas, in trying to find out what they want to do with their life, who they want to be, who am I, what is this life? And it's a really powerful experience to share that with so many people and get all that feedback. And at the same time, practicing yoga, meditation, and philosophy. So that's that.
Maybe I can tell about our ashram story.
Which one?
About our ashram.
Oh, about how you got your ashram. Yeah, how you actually ended up settling in the one place. Because when I studied with you, hi, cutie. When I studied with you, you were in Odayam Beach, and it was a temporary thing. But you did. I guess it has been 7 or 8 years now that you've settled in your permanent location. Well, nothing's permanent. Everything's impermanent. Tell us about how you came to find that.
The place where we live, Ayur Yogic Ashram, it's outside Mysore in South India. It's a unique story in a way that only all the ashrams, if you Google for ashrams in India, all the ashrams in India are generally set up by a big gurus, famous gurus. They have a lot of cult following of thousands or millions of people. Or it's very traditional, like you need to be a devotee or a cult follower to be part of the ashram. Like it's very similar setup like Christian schools within the United States.
Were you guys in the class where I had you watch PK?
Yeah.
Like the guru. Right? That was it. That was satire. But, it's partly true. I know.
Yeah. So, very similar, like you have so many denominations of Christianity here. In Hinduism also we have hundreds of them. And out of all of them, again, we have so many castes and so many traditions within the yoga. So if you want to learn any traditional knowledge, you need to go to one of these places. And that's where I ended up. I joined in one monastery. I learned, but I find it after some time, it does not answer all my questions. So I left that place. I went to a different monastery. I learned a completely different aspect there. Like in the first monastery where I went, Hatha yoga is not encouraged. They said, if you make too much yoga, it's going to make you very physical. It's not good. You are not supposed to be more meditator. Meditation is more important. And the second place where I went is a completely different setup. It's more about karma yoga, service to guru. And I was very happy there for some time. And later it did not fulfill me. So I went to another place. So about 12 to 13 years, I changed 6 different schools or styles or traditions or gurus. And each place, I learned a little bit. And I'm very happy about every single place at the very end. In the beginning, I was unhappy because all the cults have certain limitations, and you don't have freedom in thought, or you cannot question. You have a very limited domain, and I was not ready to function in that limited domain. So I kept changing from school to schools, and even after 12, 13 years, I did not find a place perfectly that allows me to practice what I believed as a true. Because my main problem was being spiritual, which was the goal actually when I left my home and joined in a monastery. Is not just about doing yoga or meditation, but it has to manifest in your day-to-day life. What is the purpose of just being a yogi in the Himalayas? Now, what is the point of entire purpose if everybody has to go to Himalayan cave and meditate all the time? And I was also not much happy with, or not sure about, worship, the devotion expected from a students as a precondition to learn. Like all these places, if you are not devoted to the guru or the teacher, you are not allowed there. And if you say anything wrong, they'll kick you out. So both aspects I was not happy. So at last it compelled me to have my own place. And I was never passionate about teaching. I'm always a reluctant teacher. I'm not really, don't like teaching other people or reforming other people or transforming other people. I never feel that's my part. What I love is to practice and be an example. People should learn from examples, not just by oral teachings. And that's my truly what I believe in. But how I got into was, I saw that a lot of people were talking a lot of nonsense in the name of yoga. It has no, like I find that the people in the outside world who actually never had an experience of all these practices, there's a lot of illusions around the practice of yoga, a lot of misconceptions. And initially I thought, oh, these are silly people talking silly stuff. Why should I care about? But later it struck me up that I was very privileged to be able to live and study in a places where a lot of people cannot go there. Even if you have a lot of money, you cannot go there. You cannot study with the type of teachers I studied. So I was able to be in those places, learn things. That means there must be a purpose. Yeah, maybe these people who do not have access to that, to live in a monastery for 10 years. Maybe I should at least help them to clear up the misunderstandings, misconceptions, and let them find their own path. So my style of teaching is more about busting the myths. Is it the
No, I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
your trainings.
mostly I don't tell people what is the truth. I teach more about what is not a truth. What is all the false illusions. I help people to think on their own mind, use their own mind, and question and come up to the solutions. Like I reached, actually a lot of the stuff I learned came from my own questioning, not from my teachers, not from my books. But I'm not saying that teachers or books are not important. They are important. They did contributed a lot in my life, in my thinking. But at the end of the day, all of us, we need to think. We need to question. We need to try. We need to experiment to come to really find out what is the truth, which might be initially separate from all of us differently at one place. But we need to reach to that place, we need to think. So my style of teaching is mostly about myth busting. I let the people think. I let the people question. And I'm a bit a rebel against the tradition, which I belong myself, and telling people not to follow yoga teachers all the time, believe books blindly. Mostly, I bust the myths. I tell my own student, don't trust me, don't trust any teachers here. If you trust, you are not going to be a good student. And so the first thing that I brought in the place where I teach, the first important thing for me is students who have the freedom to think and question. Without that thinking and freedom, the yogic philosophy has no value. Unfortunately, a lot of yogis or yogic schools in India, even today, they just follow the books. Yeah, the whatever is written, some holy word in the Sanskrit books. Okay, this book said, so this is a truth. Yeah, or follow some great teacher 100 years ago or 500 years ago. But what I want to bring to the yoga community I was part of is ability to think freely and question and talk about their own hearts rather than intellectual stuff. That is the first thing we do, and otherwise we also created a place outside all tourist areas. Like most of the yoga schools in India are located in a touristy spots. So we bought 18 acres of land in a countryside, and it's completely empty land. So in the past 7 years, we slowly built up every year. Started with 5 cottages and 1 yoga hall, then made a second yoga hall, few more rooms, then built a dining room, like slowly. We do not have investors. We don't want any investors because it's not a commercial project. We want students coming there, and what they pay, it's completely built by the students' money. And we are not in rush to expand, or actually on the contrary, we limit our core students. More than 20 people we don't want. Ayurveda we don't want more than 10 people. So what we are trying to do is at least have a place where people can practice yoga without any pretensions. Or again, I'm not saying that we are perfect, yeah, because we have our own problems. As we found out, some of our teachers were exploiting the students, and I don't mind calling it out. And I myself is not a perfect. Yeah. So, but what we are trying to do is build an authentic place. No bullshit and no crap.
Well, you've been perfect. You've been perfect in not exploiting the students. But I think that, I would love to hear you speak to that, because this this thing that happens with like spirituality, and some people using spirituality as more of a cover for their own sexual obsessions, it seems to be like throughout time. And this is no secret, right? Like this is a thing. This has been going on for a really long time. And what, like when you were actually in the religious ashrams that you were in, what did you observe, and what's some of your insight on that? What do you do to counter that? This is a really big question, and I don't expect you to be responsible for this thing that's gone on forever, but I think it is good to call it out, and I think that when anything is used deceptively, like spirituality is the cover, like over it, so it's the costumery, and then underneath it we really have the core of someone that just has like a lot of sexual obsession and kind of really even enjoys manipulating others. That's not okay, and so did you, in the ashrams you were at, was that ever directly addressed, and what are your thoughts on it?
The very first monastery where I was, you are not allowed to meet or mingle with any female.
So they
And
didn't account for any like homosexual relationships or anything. Just address it
e-
from let's separate the
even
genders.
even the word sex cannot be used, uttered anywhere. The very uh, extreme celibacy. The concept of extreme celibacy, even thinking of a sex is sinful, or that's where I started. And that's the beginning. So people never talk about it, you don't see it in the first monastery I was. But in the next monastery I went, it's a bit, I found a different place where men and women live together, but you're not talked about it, it's there all the time. People flirting and there are murmurs, people are sleeping around in the night, but you're not supposed to talk about. And the next one I went was more evident, I started seeing. I started realizing that people talk about celibacy, but in the real life they're not that serious. Yeah. Initially I was a bit uncomfortable with that, but actually when I when I started I was only 18 years. So by the time I'm 28 or 30, I came to an understanding that sex is a basic desire everybody has, all humans has. And suppressing it causes more problem. People do need to talk about it and find a way to deal with it in a more healthy way.
Yeah, in an honest way, in
In
an
an
upfront
honest
way.
way and healthy way. And whenever you suppress, it causes much worse problems, not only to the people who are trying or professing that, but people around them. And which I started seeing a lot in the past 10 years. It has been always there, but it never came into my own consciousness until recently, actually. Even when I started teaching yoga to the Westerners, I myself was not aware. I myself was close with some of the female students. I never thought it's something wrong. But later, somebody told me a story. A yoga student being abused or by another male teacher whom I respected a lot. So that was my first shocking thing, that a teacher can do that to the student against. There are two things when we are talking about all the sex scandals in the modern yoga in the past 10-20 years. There are two things. One is where with consensus, like two people are grown-up adults, they were in relationship or either secretly or openly, but there is a consensus. That's one thing. Second thing is against the consensus, which is legally a rape.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no questions to talk about. When somebody forces against another person, it doesn't matter where it is, what circumstances, there's no excuse about it. There's no need of debate. They should be punished immediately.
Right.
There's no question. But here mostly what we need to talk about is there's a subtle exploitation, which is where many times it happens between a teacher who is a male, generally, because majority of teachers in India are male, and a female who is much younger, or coming from a different culture, very naive and innocent. So somehow a relationship becomes romantic and sexual. So now, is it okay? Most of the cases, 99% cases, no.
Right.
It is
We
not.
call it power
For the-
differential.
For
Yeah.
the first reason is, it's not like pure love. Suppose a teacher falls in love with a student and want to marry, like I did with my wife, but during our course we had no relationship, by the way. Just for the, we never had any kind of romantic feelings during the course. Only when she came back to the ashram and she was volunteering, we became friends. But otherwise, if anybody falls in love, want to marry, that's okay. That's completely different matter. But when a person is not interested to marry or to have a permanent relationship, but having a short-term flings with
Right.
not just one, but with multiple, there's no question it's an exploitation that cannot be allowed. And actually, I encourage the women not to allow anything because it's making the yoga a very bad name in the past few years. Even I myself had seen teachers had to deal with that kind of issues. It's very sad situation in a way that the student who came to yoga to learn yoga and practice yoga, it changes their perception of yoga forever. It ruins them yoga goodness of yoga forever
Right. Just because the
Yeah.
human mind connects things, makes
Yeah.
those connections.
because of one teacher and the bad experience
Right.
can ruin not only their yogic life but general life. So it is never there's no excuse about
Yeah. So some of the worst examples you were talking about were things like, when we were speaking earlier, like younger students, that would almost like go to the Swami's door and just, be almost like worshiping them, and had really a lot of projection going on where they saw this person as spiritual. They wanted that spirituality, and they were very confused about how you get spirituality, almost as if not a well thought out thing, but almost as if you sleep with someone that you somehow acquire their spirituality.
yeah
I
that's
think there is like an unspoken misconception about that, that once you articulate it, it seems very silly, but people get those ideas mixed together, and
Yeah.
our sacral chakra, one of the chakras that we have in our body, that is both passion and sexuality. So when you feel those feelings of being passionate about something, and of course, like the spirituality, kind of to light that fire of it, there feels like there's a passion to it, right? And so those ideas are so close that I think it is easy to kind of go over the line with it and get confused, Yeah.
otherwise you know what is Upanishads?
Say it again.
Upanishads
Open and shut.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
di-
Upanishads. The Upanishads. Yes.
did you hear the name Vedas? Vedas are the Sanskrit works from where it's like a Bible for entire yoga and Hinduism. All the ideas of yoga and Hinduism comes from Vedas. A part of the Vedas is Upanishads, where all the yoga philosophy comes from. And the Upanishad says, who is a teacher? Yeah. One thing is that it talks about 3 qualifications of a teacher. Yeah. Or it's 3 signs. The first thing is a person who experienced a Brahman, which we are talking about a person who experienced a deeper spiritual experience in their own life. The word Brahman is very complex, but to say somebody who had actual experience, deeper meditative spiritual experience, that's the first quality. Second is person who expects nothing from the student. Yeah, if a teacher expects anything from you, even money, that's a good sign to know that. Yeah, a person gives knowledge without any expectations. That is a second. Third quality is ahetuka krupa sindhu. That means a person does not judge you. Doesn't matter whatever. You can tell anything, talk about anything. A teacher would never tell you, oh, you are a beautiful person, you are ugly person, or you did wrong, you did sinful. The quality of a guru or a teacher is somebody, the relationship between a teacher and a student in yoga is considered as more deeper than a mother and a baby. Once a teacher accepts somebody as a student, they cannot judge them. Doesn't matter whatever they practice, don't practice. Like you give without any expectations, and no judgment at all. So those are the very three qualities to know who is a right teacher for you. If a teacher telling you, oh, you have some problem here, we need to fix that, let me to help you. They're telling you there's something wrong with you, I'm going to help you. That's a clear sign that that's not going to end up in a good way. A good teacher doesn't tell you there's something wrong with you. A good teacher says where you are is great. You try this, it might help you, or it's up to you, gives you freedom. He does not try to compel you to do this, or you should not do that. Those three things are a great way to find out who is a...
So, to be clear, just to point out the obvious, we both charge money for our programs, and we both pay our teachers.
Yeah.
And so what are your thoughts on that?
I don't charge for teaching ever. All the money is paid for the accommodation, food, facility, and the general facility. Staff. Yeah. And I teach for free even now. Whenever
I guess
I
go, probably do
anybody
too, but
invites me.
these are like semantic level,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
No, we do need money. We do need money, but for running the facility. Yeah. Right now, suppose I cannot charge money because I'm not organizing anything. I'm not paying anything for facilities. Suppose if I organize something, of course I need to pay for that. Yeah, but otherwise, the teaching should never be put for commercial use. It's always money is okay. It's fair to charge to the extent that as a teacher you do need money to survive. Yeah.
And your teachers, you pay them.
Yeah.
You know,
we have employees
I
to
pay my teachers as well.
Yeah, we have 40 employees to run the facility. So there is many times when the students see your teaching is coming from the heart and authentic, they don't see it as a commercial thing, even from the student standpoint of view. When it's genuine and authentic, people don't mind about money. Money is secondary there. Money is facilitating there. But when we try to put a price tag to the teaching, then in the front, okay, you want to learn this much, it costs you this much. If you want to learn in the yoga,
I'm not going to teach you anymore because that's going to cost you a little more, you know, right? Like every teacher should actually give from their heart, and as much as you want to learn, they're there, and even after they're there. Yeah.
In the modern time, we don't need to charge something. We cannot charge completely free because, again, if you make everything super cheap, people don't value that. If you make it everything freely available, too many people will come, and you cannot selectively, you cannot focus. A teacher cannot teach to everybody again. A good teacher selects to whom to teach, the right type of students they can help. If any teacher tells, sometimes we have yoga teachers or the massage therapist in resorts in Indian tourism place, and if you go, what can you teach? He says, oh, I can teach everything. You want Ashtanga, you want Vinyasa, you want this, you want that. Just choose anything. I can dish you out everything. You want massage, what kind of massage? 20 different. I can do everything. So normally ideally in the yoga, you are more specialized. Like in massage, you are specialized in a certain area. And that specialty is suitable for certain type of people. And as a good teacher or a good healer selects the type of people, right people, because otherwise it's a waste of time if you are teaching to the people whom it won't benefit them. Instead of that, as a teacher needs to choose what type of students they want, the same way the students need to try different people and choose the teacher they want. So it should be a good exchange of participation on both sides.
Yeah, I think people get very confused about sex, money, and style. These are all the same. That's what I've learned here today so far.
Well, again, the truth is, the problem of this sex, money, and all the corruption, scandals, actually, it has been there all the time throughout the history. But all these years or centuries, we don't talk about it. Right now is a time these things are people have the freedom to talk about, to discuss and debate about it, which is very good thing. Yeah, because all these years nobody talked about it. It's a time. It's
No,
a time.
last time we know what happened to Socrates with all this question,
Yeah. So actually, I have in yoga. It is very surprising for me as an Indian. Is in India you don't see that many women practicing yoga, teaching yoga. But in the West, and 90% of the students are teachers, a majority of them are female. And many times people ask me, why is that women come to more yoga? And interestingly, very recently, again, in the past few years, I've been teaching to women. It seems that women have the more ability to experience certain aspects of emotions and aspects of life that men do not have historically. Because historically men always, their goal is go and get work, make more money and feed your family. Men are designed to go out and get something all the time and are extrovert. While woman has a capacity to go inside, to nurture, to bring the life into the bring the baby into the life and nurture them, grow them. They have that different type of connections to understand subtle aspects of life that men many times say I have no time for.
Right. And yet things are really changing in the world. So
Right now things are changing.
I was
right now world is not same like what it was even 1 decade ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was saying next to this neuropsychologist on a plane like a few weeks ago, and maybe longer now, but he was talking to me about recently he was looking at brain scans when men were asked a question, then women were asked a question. And he said, and I wish I'd paid a little more attention, but he said basically that when men were asked this question, they would have just one side of their brain light up. I think it was the left, but I'm not sure. But when women were asked the question, they'd have both sides light up.
Yeah.
And I found that fascinating too. And then what you said about over time, the way that men and women have been conditioned and the expectations, it will be interesting to see if over time that's something where men's brains eventually light up on both sides, because things have changed. They've changed in our world quite a bit recently.
I think yourself is a great example. Being a single mom, not only you raise the kids, you run a business, you are a good cook, you do all the things.
I love being domestic and I love business. I love both. I love it.
I wish men, including me, also learn how to cook and how to do more stuff like being all-rounder.
Yeah, and the whole time I never considered myself a single mom. It wasn't ever anything that any more than like being a person with toenail polish on, it just was never felt like a thing. It's just person doing things, still person doing things. Yeah. What questions do you guys have?
Oh, sorry, we did not give you any time to ask questions.
Yeah, I had a question of what your opinion, maybe, or philosophy about Muji and Neo-Advaita. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right.
Advaita?
Yeah, and what your perspective on that and that whole lineage of, I don't know how to say any of these names, Ramana Maharishi, his whole philosophy. What would you say about that?
I myself come from the tradition of Advaita. That's where I started. And that's where all the students will end up eventually. But to start with that is hard unless you are living with somebody who is already highly advanced practitioner. it's too much to ask for a beginner to tell somebody that you are one with the universe. You have no desires, you have no fears. It's a great theory and a great practice. But I myself, as a monk, find it hard to practice that. I lived actually in a place with extreme monks, very serious monks, one of the hardest place. Even there, it's harder to practice. So normally we do not, personally I would not recommend that somebody to begin with, but that's where everybody need to evolve. That is something has to happen naturally. We should not force that on somebody. Like it's demanding too much.
So I heard Amber ask also, what is it appropriate for her to feel feel like she should not be charging students money?
No, you have to charge money.
I just want to get your answer.
Unless you need to charge money. In my case, if I don't charge, it's okay because I belong to a tradition. I was grown up in the tradition and I was part of the tradition. So when I give, it's not me giving. It's coming from my tradition, and for me, I'm not really in desperate need for money to survive or to have a families to cope up with. But in yours, unless you are meant for your training tradition, you're asked by your teacher to go out and teach, you do have family to take care, you have to pay your bills, and if you are not teaching, you will be working somewhere else, working on computers to earn that money. So I would recommend better make money by teaching yoga instead of working 9-to-5 job.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So you need to charge money to take care of yourself, to take care of your family needs and everything, and charge what is normal in the industry, whatever is normal. A student has to pay, if not to use somebody else.
So then when is it unethical or inappropriate to charge money if you're a teacher? Because, you know, when we were talking about
Not at all.
the Upanishads,
Yeah.
and your pronunciation, to be clear,
Upanishads.
is Upanishad is the correct pronunciation versus my Western.
Yeah.
Um,
No, there is certain
Yeah.
stuff, like when I talk about don't expect anything from your students, I'm talking about not a regular yoga teacher. I'm talking about yoga teachers whom you go for much serious stuff. Like the type of people who come to our ashram, they're not just looking for yoga.
Right.
They're seeking something deeper meaning. Like money, jobs, all this is secondary. For the student and for a teacher also, if I see, okay, you give me only this much money, I'll give you only this much knowledge, is not fair in those circumstances. But in the modern cities, in the modern times, people are coming to yoga class not for spiritual wisdom. They're coming for being healthy or being physically fit. They have a limited time. And in the modern times, you do need to charge money. But at the end of the class, be kind to them. And when they ask you a question, and be kind to them. Don't tell them your time is finished. Get out now. Yeah, you can still charge money and be still great. It's not that because you paid only this money, you have to, your time is up. You can still show your compassion and your selflessness to your students a lot, doing at the same, working at the same time you're charging.
Right. So
Yeah.
I think it's important to also recognize that, even though I'm going to say this wrong, the Upanishads, that was written during a time where the community would support anyone that was doing that work. So you'd
Okay.
be given food. There would be some sort of shelter for you. And so in that way, all of your basic needs, and it could be said those are really our only needs, you know, were met. And so if you are doing this as something that, so that you can have time to do this and you can have time to teach people, then it becomes very appropriate to charge money for it so that you can continue to study, you can continue to help others. And Krish was saying you would have to do something else to earn money if you weren't, you know, teaching yoga, if you weren't doing massage therapy, if you weren't doing this type of healing work. So I could easily say, and Krish could say right now at this point, that we don't charge for our teaching, but that's only because we have a whole organization and structure around us. And so we're able to, almost in a semantics type way, say that I'm appropriating this time because I care about these students, and what I make money from is actually like this organization, and that my basic needs are met because of it. But so I think it's an important discussion because it can be very confusing, and then it can lead you to feel like you should not be charging money. And then the catch-22 is that you can no longer do the work in a way where you're a teacher, and you devote that time to it. The other thing I heard you say was you spoke to the idea of this imposter syndrome, and that you don't feel like, at what point do you become qualified to teach others? And I think you did speak to that because you were saying these basic things that every yoga teacher should teach their students.
Yeah,
it's
but
not you,
otherwise,
it's the teaching,
About being, I am not good enough teacher is a feeling that everybody has throughout the life. It never finishes, and actually it's a good. If you feel that I am not a good enough teacher, you have a conscience. And it's a good thing that should motivate you to be a better teacher. And nobody is a perfect teacher. If any teacher thinks that, oh, I know everything, I can teach everything perfectly, they are not good. They stop learning. The moment you stop learning, you won't be a great teacher. Actually, the very reason you should teach is your desire to, it will compel you to learn more. Not only yoga, anything. If you want to learn anything, start teaching. Actually, it will compel you to study more. Actually, when you teach, you see the aspects what you don't see as a student. So we encourage, that's a good, there's nothing wrong in feeling I'm not a good enough teacher, and let it be all the time. Let it be motivate us to study more.
And I'd like to add something that with the imposter syndrome, it's very grounding, and the yoga practice and teaching yoga becomes the most authentic when you teach what you practice yourself. And so my biggest tip, and it's something that I've learned myself, is to don't try and teach something that you don't practice, because then you are kind of appropriating something that you may not have been, you don't experience. And the best classes, the most powerful classes for students is when a teacher shares something that they themselves really do experience in the practice. And so just be authentic in that way, and don't worry if your class is more physical, if your practice is more physical, that's okay, because some people need that. And if your class is more relaxing, because you practice a relaxing practice, that's okay too. And if you want to teach more pranayamas, practice pranayamas and figure out how that feels and what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and teach that. Don't try and be something that you're not, and people will really appreciate that. And that's not appropriating yoga at all. In fact, that is what yoga is, right? Being you.
Yeah. Otherwise, a simple key, not only in the yoga classes but any classes, is communication between teachers and students. A great class is a result of coordination of both. We cannot expect everything on the shoulders of the teacher to give an amazing, excellent class. It has to, communication should happen from students too. They need to be able to tell. So as a teacher, what you can do is at the end of every class, invite your students, hey, let me know, how do you feel? And something I can do for you. I'm available if you're welcome to come and talk. But again, don't go too much saying, oh, I am not so great in teaching. Please forgive me. Sorry if I did anything mistake. Don't do that, because if you do that, there are always clients who are pissed off for different reasons. They try to show it on you. So there are always, we cannot make every single client or a student happy. Yeah, always you give your best, and some clients, some students take what they need, how much they need, what they need, they take home that much. There are some clients, if they cannot take, that's not your fault. It is, if they want better, they need to come and talk to you. Hey, I did not help me. Can you do something? So it's not your fault if a student did not benefit in spite of your good intentions, as long as you have open mind for them to come to you. If you are not giving that space for students to talk to you, then it's different. But a simple trick is, at the end of every class, make students feel welcome to talk to you. As long as that space is there, there are no perfect classes, perfect teachers, no perfect students.
True. Here's my little student this weekend.
How do I start with the yoga practice? Because I found that it's a good way for me to try and ground myself, because I kind of have a hard time feeling grounded into the world. And when I go to the yoga classes, I've experienced those little moments of like bliss, and I don't know if I'm really connecting in with my body or if I'm out here, but just where can I start being here, and what can I do to kind of, I don't know, I guess encourage my practice in the way that I want it to be meaningful and mindful. Does that make sense?
Consistency. Firstly, find out a teacher or a school or a style that you are comfortable with today and available to you. And take that up every single day. Don't keep changing too many stuff. And if you keep practicing even whatever you know, wherever you are, every single day, the beauty of yoga is yoga will teach you. It's from inside. It comes from inside. You start listening to your own body, your own mind. The more and more you practice, you get that intuition, where to go next, what to do next. And it has to come from inside always. And how do you get it from inside? The key is regular practice. Regular, similar practice, I would say. Because some students we see, they keep changing too many stuff. They try too many hodgepodge. One day this, one day that, one day that, one day that. Like too many stuff, if you don't go anywhere. And people do sometimes more than what is needed or required. So simple and easy. Easy and simple. Just take up 10 asanas. Set a time every single day. And don't need to struggle every day. Practice those 10. And automatically the practice has to evolve naturally. Yeah. It has to be natural.
I feel really like upper chakra, like up here, I don't know, I feel off in the clouds. I feel like I have to be really mindful to ground myself. And I feel like when I'm doing yoga, it does help me throughout the day. Like when I go to a class or whatever, I just have been struggling to find a practice that really resonates, because it's like I find bits and pieces in everything I do. But it's not, like what you're saying, it's not super consistent to where it does, again, it fills up in the clouds because I'm doing a lot of different ways to ground myself, and I just feel like I'm struggling to find the way to really like live that instead of find moments of that, if that makes sense.
Do you practice any particular style
No.
currently? Or do you do flows, faster flows, or do you practice medium speed or very gentle?
I like the gentle classes. I feel like it kind of gives me time to breathe through them. But I mainly do breathing practices with myself. I try different like pranayamas in books I've read or whatever, but nothing has really like been super consistent. I feel like the classes I've taken have been good, and I usually find enjoyment in like the flow classes, but I like the slower flow, not the fast-paced flows.
Do you practice Surya Namaskar, like sun salutations?
I love those. When I have a class I do on Tuesday mornings that I've just been kind of sticking with doing, and I love the where you kind of just do repetitive type things.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't have any that I like know unless I feel like I go to the class and do it with them. And, so
will
maybe
you
I
be
should find one.
coming on Sunday class?
Yeah.
I'll be doing sun salutations.
Cool.
Otherwise, anytime in the next couple of days, if you want either me or Lily, we can show you
Cool.
the sequence of 12, or we can give you a printout. Probably it's in our computer with a sequence of that. Once if you see that, sun salutations and the core work, like lifting your legs,
Yeah.
both of them are helpful for feeling grounded. There are more asanas, but those are the basis. Or anything asanas that deals with your legs, like a trikonasana. All trikonasana is a triangle, or anything that is based on the legs. Those are more useful.
Like I found when I get stressed out, I'll just like do downward dog because
That's
I love
very
the way it
useful.
feels on my shoulders and I feel really connected on both sides of my body. So I've like kind of just been trying to pick it up, but I feel like I don't know, I don't really know where to go on that path. So I appreciate like hearing all your knowledge and what yoga is really about, because I feel like I don't know, I've been trying to just listen to my intuition, but like all these outside sources are telling me like you should do this or you should do that, and I feel like I really do just need to something very simple, something that's like no stress to just kind of start with to find my peace in that.
Basically, hardly there are less than 10 to 12 asanas which are used in the ancient time in India. In the when yoga, hatha yoga, pradipika around 10th, 11th century. Maybe by 17th century there were about 30 asanas. And a lot of asanas or yoga you practice in the modern West. Those are not really asanas, but they are variations or fancy versions of all of that. So traditionally you don't need to practice all of them. You just need to pick up maybe. There are several groups of asanas, like work asanas for legs, asanas for the hips, for the abdomen, for opening the chest, for this area. There are basically 6 to 7 groups. In each group, if you can practice one asana, that makes 7 asanas a day. If you do 2 asanas per each group, that makes 14 asanas maximum. That's all you need. If you do good quality 12 to 14 asanas with preparation, it takes minimum 90 minutes to 2 hours. If you do it with properly, without hurrying up, rushing up.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of time, and there's more than enough to have a regular, normal, healthy life for many people. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to do the sun salutations and your class on Sunday. So thank you.
Welcome.
The sun salutations for traditional hatha yoga is straightforward, and it's something that if you just learn if I'm sure you can pick the sequence up easily because it's very basic. It's something that you can do every day at home, and
I also think that the vata, that those characteristics that you have identified in yourself, that they really need that groundedness. And so I really love the advice you gave about specifically for you of having that consistent practice instead of dabbling in everything,
I know. That's what I need. I just
Yeah.
don't know where to go to find that.
Yeah. You're
Well,
going to be,
if you really,
Sunday you can start.
Yeah. If I were in your place, if the time and the money allows, I'd go away to a retreat at a place where whom you know before, not because it takes when you don't have time for 2 weeks to 4 weeks. Being in one place and practice like 2 times a day consistently until your body remembers the practice. Like that's if you want to get it done quicker. If you the best way to learn, if I want to learn suppose a hot yoga, I'd go to a place where I can find authentic hot yoga teacher and practice 2 or 3 times a day continuously for 2 weeks or 4 weeks until my body remembers it completely. Of course you can take it slowly also, but depends upon how much time, how much passion you want to put in.
Do you guys do beginner stuff, or do you just do the teacher trainings?
We do have a beginner courses. But mostly the type of students who come to our ashram, like you say, they're looking for, already they practiced some, they're looking for something more than physical asanas. Yeah, if you come to India, there's no doubt it's an adventure. Everybody has to do it one day. The question is when.
Yeah, and I'd encourage you, I think you will do that. I think you will go have that experience. But while you're having it, to really make it sacred time where you don't allow distractions, you don't allow other things in. During that time, I wouldn't allow flirtation in. I wouldn't allow the drama of just have your needs be very simple so that you're not bugged with other people doing things, with that you just are able to, you're there for that purpose and that's what you're doing, you know, and you're able to just really, really focus, set everything else aside. It's a really important gift to give yourself, you know. Yeah, it's good.
Otherwise, if you guys are planning to come to India, just what you call before.
For retreat.
No.
We've talked too about
yeah.
doing collaboration.
Heads up
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
India is not easy country to go.
Oh yeah.
It's not easy place to travel. It's not like going to a nice vacation or a. Actually, India is one of the most challenging place to travel, physically, mentally, and emotionally. So, before you come to India, you have to be mentally be prepared for expecting unexpected things.
Yeah,
The
the
challenges.
unexpected definitely happens in India, you know. Yeah, here.
An Indian friend once told me, and it's one of the best advice for when you go to India, is if you experience India with your mind, you'll hate it, and if you experience India with your heart, you'll love it. So there's a lot of things in India. Take a drink, excuse you. There's a lot of things in India that are frustrating, and you're like, why is this happening like this, and what's going on? But the chaos. There's a beauty in the chaos, and there's a beauty in all of the paradoxes in India.
Yeah, it's still not. It's not safe to just go typically as a woman alone to India, I would say, unless you have a plan in place, unless you have some sort of support network. So something like going to your ashram, knowing ahead of time that you have a safety network and that you have people that you can touch base with in the country, that's actually really important, you know. So, yeah, you seem a little choked up about experience. I know, I'm just teasing you. Emotional release. It's good. It's good. Do you guys have anything else you want to ask before we close this? Are you coming on? You're coming on Sunday as well. Good. Okay, that'll be really nice. Yeah.
Very nice chat and getting to know you and talking to you. Thank you for
Thank you
facilitating.
so much, Lily. Do you have anything you want to add additionally? No. Okay. Thank you. Thank you to both of you.
For information on becoming a licensed massage therapist, visit zmc.edu. For information on continuing your education in massage therapy and bodywork, visit studyhealing.com. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe.